financial disclosure reports. What we found is that when Ayanna Pressley was elected to Congress back in 2018, she had a negative net worth. You fast forward to today, she's worth $1.3 million with assets worth up to $8 million. Now, that's a massive increase in just 6 years, especially for someone on a $174,000 congressional salary. It's impressive, really. But how did she do it? Well, part of its property in 2024, Pressley reported owning a Martha's Vineyard rental worth up to $5 million, as well as multiple Boston rentals worth up to $1 million each. Now, for context, back in 2019, she only reported owning one property in Boston. We're also learning days before Pressley was sworn into Congress, her husband quit his $92,000 annual Boston City Hall job to start his own consulting firm called Conan Harris and Associates. And as we read more of the Congresswoman's financial disclosure reports, we learn that her husband also saw his income jump while he was in Washington.
No charges have been filed and no conclusions have been reached. The investigation remains ongoing. How does a Congresswoman's household business portfolio reportedly increase from around $50,000 to potentially $30 million in just 12 months? That is the central question driving a formal congressional investigation. We're going to walk through the documents, the timeline, and the unanswered questions at the center of this probe. Representative Ilhan Omar and her husband, Tim Minett, are currently under scrutiny by the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. The concern isn't simply the size of the reported increase. It's the lack of transparency about who may have invested in these businesses and whether those investments could create conflicts of interest. On February 5, 2026, Committee Chairman James Comer sent a formal request for documents to Minett. The letter asked for financial statements, travel records, and communications related to two companies.
So you're going to still go after the whole waste, fraud, and abuse issue?
Well, I am in Minnesota. Take a look at Minnesota. So we think it's at least $19 billion of fraud, medical, every fraud. Somalia has come in here. What they've done to our country, these people, they've come into our country, and what they have done with that fake congresswoman, she's so bad. No, we're going to get to the bottom of it. We have the best people maybe in the whole country looking at that. We're looking
in our EST Crew LLC, a California winery, and Rose Lake Capital LLC, a venture capital firm. Both are owned by Minett. Both have reportedly shown dramatic increases in valuation on Omar's financial disclosure forms. And both operate with limited public information about their investors or operations. According to Omar's May 2024 financial disclosure, her stake in EST Crew was valued between $15,000 and $50,000. Rose Lake Capital was listed at a value between $1 and $1,000. Combined, the household assets from these holdings were under $210,000 based on disclosure ranges. 1 year later, in May 2025, the disclosure told a very different story. EST Crew was now valued at up to $5 million. Rose Lake Capital was valued between $5 million and $25 million. That represents an estimated 3,500% increase in reported asset value within a single year. For context, members of Congress earn a standard annual salary of $174,000. In past interviews, Omar has stated that it was false to call her a millionaire. However, based on these filings, her household business interests alone could now be worth up to $30 million. The Oversight Committee says its concern is not whether the businesses succeeded, but whether their funding sources are transparent. When a lawmaker's spouse operates private companies that do not publicly disclose investors, unknown parties could potentially gain influence through financial investment. That is the issue under review.
This is really weird stuff.
Well, weird is not the word for it. There's another word for it called crooked. And that's why we have to have an investigation into this. As you know, the Biden administration started examining her finances and that of her husband. And so surprise, surprise, that investigation went nowhere. But it's amazing how people can go into Congress and then become these entrepreneurial investing geniuses where they come in. She had under $1,000 of net worth and her husband didn't have much, and suddenly now they're multimillionaires. Is there a money laundering operation here? And in terms of the firms themselves, they have a sketchy background. That winery in California that she and her husband own, where did that come from? Where's the wine there? And nobody can seem to find it.
Let's examine EST Crew LLC more closely. The company is registered as a wine production business in California. According to disclosures, its value rose from a maximum of $50,000 to as much as $5 million within a year. However, court records and media reports describe financial struggles. In October 2023, a Washington, D.C. restaurant owner filed a lawsuit against Minot, alleging fraud. According to the complaint, Minot pitched EST Crew as a lucrative investment opportunity in 2021, promising a 200% return on a $300,000 investment within 18 months. The lawsuit claims those returns never materialized and that repayment occurred only after legal action was filed. Additionally, some media reports in 2024 described the winery as facing serious financial distress, including unpaid staff and creditor disputes. This creates a key question. How does a company reportedly struggling financially in 2023 reach a valuation of up to $5 million by mid-2024? The committee is requesting audited financial statements, tax records, and communications with regulators to determine the basis of that valuation. Clip 4. Now let's turn to Rose Lake Capital. The firm's website claims it manages $60 billion in assets under management. If accurate, that would place it among major investment firms. The site also states that the company is staffed by former diplomats with experience in more than 80 countries. However, publicly available information is limited. There are no detailed team biographies, no listed investment portfolio, and no named clients. Archived versions of the website reportedly included additional names and affiliations that were later removed. The Oversight Committee has requested documentation verifying assets under management, investor list, the basis for the company's valuation, travel records to the UAE, Somalia, and Kenya. The committee says it wants to understand whether any foreign investments or international dealings could create potential conflicts of interest. To this stage, there are no formal allegations of criminal wrongdoing. The investigation seeks documentation to verify whether the financial disclosures accurately reflect legitimate business growth. If the companies can provide audited records demonstrating valid valuations and transparent investment sources, that could resolve the matter. If discrepancies emerge, the inquiry could expand further to closing. As of now, no charges have been filed. No conclusions have been reached. All individuals involved are presumed innocent unless proven otherwise. The February 19th deadline for document production may determine the next phase of this investigation. Depending on what those records show, the issue could either be resolved or escalate further. This situation highlights broader concerns about transparency, disclosure requirements, and potential conflicts of interest involving elected officials and their families. Reasonable people can examine the same facts and reach different conclusions. The purpose of reviewing this information is not to declare guilt, but to understand the timeline, the documents, and the questions being raised. As this investigation continues, more information may emerge.